And I was just about to say that to some maybe people in the audience, like, I've been in the drawers 7 times, and I'm like, finally on the walls. But of course, you have to submit, right, to make it happen. So, okay, so this is going to be a little awkward giving this talk, because I gave a Pechakucha talk about this series kind of recently. I don't know if you guys know what that is, a Japanese format where it's like 20 slides, 20 seconds a slide. So I'm kind of pulling imagery from that and words from that too, and then but I don't have to do 20 seconds. So anyway, so thank you all for being here. I'm going to show and tell a little bit about the origins of this series. And like she said, I am known for telling the stories of Montana people, landscapes, and animals. But with this series, I decided to let the animals tell their own story. So wait, hold on, I should switch here. How does that look? Does that look?
Yeah.
Can y'all see it good? Okay. So like a lot of people in Montana, I am enthralled by watching and photographing the apex predators in the landscape. But at one point, I did get a trail camera and set it up to see the comings and goings of my neighbors, which is always a nice surprise. But art was my goal, not just documentation. So I decided one day to attempt to recreate via Photoshop a magical moment that I had actually witnessed the year before but was not able to photograph, which was an encounter between a grizz and my dog at night. And because I didn't photograph it, and I kind of obsessively do that, I kind of dreamt about this moment. And then actually when the first, and this is horrifying to admit, but when the first generation of Midjourney came out, I got an invitation, and I thought, oh, that would be cool. I'll ask Midjourney to make this photo that I didn't take. But back then, it was such an early version, Midjourney they didn't know what a grizzly bear was. So then I decided to just do it in Photoshop. But because I was recreating it, I exaggerated the size of the grizz on purpose. So if you noticed, like, the man door to the barn and the grizz are almost the same height. That is not how it works in real life. Because I wanted to make it kind of fantastical, but when I shared this on Instagram and you're looking at it this big, that got lost on a lot of people. Like, they thought that I actually took this picture. So then I had to explain to everybody that I did not. But yeah, I kind of, like, most of my work is in the moment real, but even though this photo is in that series, The Last Man, but I felt like it was okay to, make one image that was kind of really fantastical, because that is what it feels like there. So then I decided to have some fun and play around with this idea of creating moments that didn't happen, which is unusual for my work. If you know my work, it's all very real. So one night one day I saw that I got a grizz on the trail cam, and then the next night went out to the same location, put myself in the frame, looking at that photo that I'd captured with the grizz, and my camera allows me to remotely release the shutter. So then I took the picture of me, and then I combined me and my dog and the grizz in one frame. So, but predators and grizzly aren't very predictable. So anyway, so I then switched to being kind of obsessed with prey, which are more predictable in the landscape, since what I realize is that I can put the trail camera out, but I don't ever know when I'm going to get a grizz, and certainly in the winter I'm not going to get them. And then eventually I did realize that I identified more closely with prey than predators. So I'm going to skip a few of my favorites. I do have some new ones at the end. So after I went to a portfolio review, and with this other project I have, The Last Man, and I was told, you should really stop shooting. You have a lot of work, slow down, figure out what you want to do with all of this other work. But then I missed my morning editing routine with my coffee, and it was just very comforting to know I was always creating something new and wanted to post it on Instagram and share it. So I ended up just putting my trail cam out on this fence line where I knew that there was like deer activity. And then that's kind of how, in a way, how this project came about. And And so at first, I had it facing out to this field, and I got beautiful pastoral scenes, but nothing particularly like exciting. It's just beautiful. And then eventually I got this image, which kind of excited me. It looked like there was a portal that opened up in the sky. And I was like, oh, I'm onto something. Like there was a drop of water on the lens that created something like I hadn't seen before. And so this is kind of where the idea of my spiritual self-portraits is born, but I'll just kind of go forward for a minute and say, when I was editing and printing the series for my show at the Missoula Art Museum and thinking about the artist statement, I walked by my inspiration board one day that's been kind of downsized lately, and there in the middle of it, I realized that there was this painting of a deer. And it turned out, I had to look on the bottom, it was like I had cut this out of the New Yorker in 2002, but I didn't really know what it was from. And I had no recollection, so I Googled it, and it turned out it was a review of a Gerhard Richter show. But what I also realized is at the bottom, that the reviewer writes, it's of a spiritual self-portrait. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm making. So that was kind of weird. It was in front of my face for like 23 years and never really thought much about it. And that's like a downloaded. That's what it looks like when it's not faded after 23 years on my bulletin board. Okay, and let's see. I'm sorry. And so as I left the camera out there and I would take it and I would see things again like I hadn't seen, when I first saw this, I was like, what is going on? And I realized it was likely just a spider web in front of the lens. But it also looked like, again, the deer was being beamed up or down. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I started to really fall in love with like how cheap this camera lens was, and that the moisture getting inside, and especially in the morning mist, was creating these ghost-like images. And so again, started getting a little excited about the series. But then this image happened. And what I was doing was I had my camera out on the fence to shoot 5 stills and then 15 seconds of video. And so that's what I would be editing through all the time. And then prior to this, I kept hearing this twangy sound, which you hear in the video in the other room, but I didn't know what it was. And then when I saw this, I was like, oh, they're jumping over the fence, like kind of a duh moment, because there was an apple tree over here. And I saw the game trail up to the fence, so it was kind of obvious, but I really wasn't paying that close attention. So once I got this shot of this reindeer, I turned the camera down the fence line. I was like, oh, maybe I can get them jumping. And you can actually see, I was like, I had to point at that, that's not gonna work. But again, it was all kind of very slowly, but like the fence is bent over here. So it was almost obvious that that is what's been happening, that the deer were jumping. So, and then I just kind of let it happen and see what I could capture. And, you know, yeah, they're too close to the camera and they're being overexposed, and they don't quite fit in the frame, but with some good editing, it all kind of works. And then after I kind of did start really getting excited about this, I thought, oh, I should try something different. I took the camera off the fence line, and what I was hoping to get was the deer jumping at the camera. And so I put it in a little Tupperware container, nice and tight, so I could angle it at just the right angle. And what happened was the deer froze. They saw the red LEDs, you know, on the front, and were just like, I'm not jumping towards that thing. I don't know what that is. Or walked right up to it and was like, oh, what are you? But eventually they did jump at it, but honestly, those pictures weren't very exciting for some reason as they were jumping at the camera. And there's some video of it in there. So yeah, a lot of this project is in the magic of the editing, like finding something that I hadn't quite seen before. I'll admit that, like that one there, that's almost like my Cartier-Bresson decisive moment shot, this one right here, like where the deer is perfectly hovered over the fence. And that is kind of what my goal was, but then once I got it, I was like, oh, okay, but maybe there's something else. So yeah, that's that one. And yeah, then there's the close-ups. And okay, and then here is the actual camera that I used on the fence. And actually you can see me and the camera photographing each other there in the little 5x7s. And this is during a beautiful, I don't know if you guys get hoarfrost here during a fog. That's the moment I decided to go take its portrait so that it would be pretty. But you can really see like the fence like bent over from all the deer jumping. And then what I was thinking about getting ready for this show and putting together this talk was I went into my archive where I keyword everything, and I just started searching for deer all the way back. And I realized that deer have appeared as in my work before, even though I was like literally we were driving down the road and somebody went, look, oh, deer. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like really not interested in them. But this is from actually my very first series I ever had in the drawers here was called Dead Things with Sugar. And that's Sugar, my dog. And so, thank you for laughing. It's not meant to be taken seriously. So anyway, these are like my early work with deer, but the deer wasn't really the focus. Sugar finding. So basically, it was called Dead Things with Sugar because sugar would. I moved to Montana. All the dudes have 600 millimeter lens and tripods, and they're doing wilderness stuff. And I'm like, what stories of Montana am I gonna tell? I don't have those lenses. I don't want those lenses. I don't want to lug one around. And then Sugar kind of told me. She just would bring me dead stuff in the woods. And then I was in 2013, I was in the drawers here for the first time with Dead Things, and I was in the New Space Center for Photography in a show there, and I met a photographer. I don't know if I think he's still in Portland, Jeffrey Baker. Does anybody know? Okay. And he had work in that show, and I went on his blog, and he talked about something called morticulture, and which he described as, where nature is as much a culture of death as it is of life. And I went, oh, that's what Dead Things with Sugar is about. So actually the artist statement of this actually comes all the way from Portland to Montana. And then I also did a series called Strange Days Woods Bay about the little community I lived in on Flathead Lake. And this is from that's from just walking my dog around. This is from the Last Man series. And yeah, I just think it's funny because people would always go, oh, look, the deer. And I guess I did photograph them. I just wasn't sharing those because I thought they were boring. This does figure prominently in my series, The Last Man. So I have photographed deer, and I've eaten them, obviously. This is one of my favorite images, just mostly because of the dog. I don't know if you can see in the bottom. And then also it's lit beautifully by the light inside the welding shop and the light on the skid steer. And I just shot it with an iPhone. And then somewhere in here was like, oh, like deer, So I'm just sharing sweet photos of deer, and I just love this transition. They were really, yeah. And then this is a trail cam photo, but not from the series, from actually a couple winters before I kind of started the series. And sometimes you look at them and you wonder, how are you surviving in this landscape? This is just last year. Again, suddenly more recognizing deer in the landscape. And I do wish I did have a longer wildlife lens. But But this is a deer in a canola field with the Swan Range in the background. And another canola field. And this is from actually probably over 10 years ago, driving in more central Montana. And just quietly, actually shot it from the driver's seat in my car. And so one of the things, like getting ready for my exhibition in Missoula was like, okay, deer, I should like read Wikipedia entries about them and know something. And ended up coming across that this is not AI, there is something called vampire deer. This is a Siberian musk deer. This is, by the way, stole off Google. And like I also love thinking about like, what if we had vampire deer here? How different would this series look at night with like vampire deer jumping over fences? So when I like literally like went down a rabbit hole about these guys, they're very small actually, these vampire deer, but it's kind of like, it's pretty trippy looking. But then I ran into a hunter that I know, and he showed me this mount from one of his kills that it turns out, and I wrote down the note, give me 1 second. These are protruding tusks out of a white-tailed deer that he killed in the area of Montana where I live. It's a 1 in 10,000 occurrence, and most people don't even know until you take the head to be mounted, until they remove the gums and do everything to it, that you would see these residual fangs that some deer still have in them that don't really ever come through the gum line, which is just kind of trippy and just random fun information for you. Okay, we're going to skip that. And then I'm just going to end with, I guess if you're really into deer now after seeing this, I randomly stumbled across this 1943 film that's like 12 and a half minutes long, illustrated, called Callisto, La Petite Nymphe de Diane. And I just took some screenshots of it, and it's this like absolutely fantastic, you can find it on YouTube, fantastic illustrated story of the relationship between this woman and deer, and beautifully, like very Art Deco illustrations, and it's like how I feel now more connected to the deer than the grizzly bears. So anyway, that's it.
Questions for Lauren?
Yes.
So that in the context of an art gallery, this work is highly original.
Thank you.
We've all seen camera traps, and they're incredible. Shots of snow leopards and whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And your editing's fantastic.
I had help. I reached out to people, like, which one of these speaks to you more? Like, yeah.
But I'm still interested in knowing who your influences are. What photographers inspire you, or you aspire to? If you could talk about that a little bit.
Wow. There's so many names. Today sounds terrible, but I'm always going to say I try not to be influenced, which is really hard in the age of Instagram, because I do post on Instagram, but it's very hard because, yes, I want people to click like on mine, and in order to do that, you have to spend time clicking like on others, but that means then I'm like muddying the waters kind of thing. So it is really hard. I would say I started off, I was just telling some people last night, back in the 90s, I would say the first photographers that I felt deep connection to were Nan Golden and Larry Clark, but I've kind of come a long way since that, and live so rurally that like I don't have a group of friends that I photograph anymore. And I mean, I'll just say, like, really, there's just a lot of people that influence me. I will say there's also the rebel in me that's like, what everybody's doing, I'm going to do the opposite. So the camera trap thing, like I know a lot of people in Montana who set up these camera traps and get these incredible images, but that takes time and money and who you're doing it for. And so I just kind of go the opposite, like the cheapest camera. This is like a $120 trail camera. And somehow I just figure it out. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Is this trail camera like film or digital, or I'm not sure how it's...
Oh, it's a Campark T300, like total cheap, really cheap trail camera. The only thing that I wanted when I bought it was a solar panel, so I didn't ever have to put batteries in, which I've never done. So that saves a lot of headache, like, oh, you get there and the batteries are dead, or spending money on batteries. So,
It's digital, right?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very, it claims it's like 3,000 megapixels or something like this, but it's the quality of the pixels, as we know, not the size, and the quality of these pixels is pretty bad. So
30, not 3,000.
what?
They're 30.
30 megapixels, or yeah, 3,000 like wide when I open it up or whatever. So, so yeah, a lot of these I had to up-res to print, but that was kind of also the joy. It's like it didn't need to be perfect. And then I admit that some of them, like the one of the vapor at the fence, is a screen grab from video. I would not have captured that in just a trigger. So yeah, so I would just open up the video file and go, oh, what did I miss? And then just take a screen capture and print it. If I felt like it added to the series, like for some variety in terms of editing.
I don't know if everybody's had a chance to see the video, although we're hearing it. Just, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that decision to move? Had you done video work before for exhibit?
I actually did a reel for, I believe you guys asked me to do a reel once for here, for the drawers that, for the rant, because I have, my Last Man series is kind of broken into two parts because the art world is really only interested in dark stuff. And then there was all this really cute animal stuff on the ranch too. And so I kind of broke it into two series, and I submitted my ranch sightings here. And then they asked me, can you submit a 1-minute reel? And I went, I don't think I have, I don't do video. And then I just looked in my archive and I was like, oh, I do. I have plenty of like little tiny clips that would be perfect for a reel. And then I actually made that reel longer at some point. And this kind of happened the same way. I think one day I decided, oh, I'm just going to make a little reel for Instagram. So it really started off like maybe like a 1.5 minutes long. And then when I got the show at the Missoula Art Museum, I decided I really wanted to spend time going through all the video footage, which is like a lot, and then editing something together a little longer. And actually, it was like, I'm really excited by the video, almost more so than the photos.
And how long is it?
It's like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the all the sounds are in situ, even the coyotes, but the coyotes are captured on my iPhone, and then I just added them. But the coyotes are captured in the same place where the camera was. And then I just kind of used that for some ambiance, and also it was happening, and the deer are likely also moving because of the coyotes. So, yeah, it was, to be honest, it was really fun to make. Yes, Landry.
Well, you know, I've loved your work for years.
Thank you.
This one just like cracks my heart. It really does, because I've lived with deer on my land for so many years, and it's their spirit, it's their curiosity, it's the flight, it's the running, it's the gentleness, it's, you know, you've gotten everything about their spirit, and I think that's just commendable and really fun.
Well, I guess the one thing I didn't really mention so far, though, is that they got it. Like, what I love about this is that there's like no human intervention other than me going out and setting it up and kind of knowing what was going to happen, although in the beginning I had no idea. And they really are showing it to us, to be poetic about it. Like,
But your
there's...
eyes selected those images, so
I will say, after so many decades of being a photographer, I finally figured the editing thing out. But again, I still had help. I still had people that I reached out to be like, well, which ones do you like? You know? And then eventually it just became, especially with a show, like making sure that if there's not too much repetition, like how many deer, you know, in the dark at night can I get jumping over the fence? You know, a little bit of variety, and then some other things. But thank you, because it is, yeah, I really almost can't take credit, because it just kind of, a lot of artists.
Yes, you do. I also love your choice of the gold frames. It wouldn't be like what I would think to do. I would just do black with black, but it's perfect.
Thank you.
And I love it. So.
Thank you. Yes, people have been asking me about that, and I will be honest and say, besides that the gold, tonality-wise, matches more the chocolate brown backgrounds, I really, when I did the show at the Missoula Art Museum, I really, if I'm, as an artist, and we have to not be shy to speak about the cost of putting a show together like this, I really wanted it to be that somebody thought it was so beautiful that they just saw it on the wall and was like, just like that, I want it on my wall, without having to think, oh, how would I improve it or do something else? And I got an incredible amount of help and support from a company called American Frame. Best customer support I've ever had anywhere. It's a women-owned business. She went on my website, she looked at the work, because I was spending a lot of money sight unseen buying the framing, and they were just fabulous. And then, yes, blood, sweat, and tears doing my own framing. Trying to do this without getting one single piece of dust inside there. Because it's very visible against all this darkness. So, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm I'm very happy with the way it came out. I printed some pieces on fabric, but I did not ship them here. And that is a kind of cool thing too, like having that like motion, and I layered imagery together on these sheer pieces that I made.
Did you hang
I hung them on like wooden dowels.
against the wall?
No, like right in the middle of the gallery space. Yeah, it wasn't, so the space here wasn't really big enough to do that, and I had printed them pretty big.
What kind of fabric?
What was it called? It's just very, I'm sorry.
Polyester or silk, cotton, muslin?
No, it's very soft, light. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, people. It's like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like, and very sheer.
Yeah.
Jackie Mulder, Melanie Walker, I'm thinking of some artists, help me, other people who know them, who do this kind of work. They were my inspiration for those fabric pieces. Because they would like print different imagery, and then they layer them so that it feels almost like motion in a still image. I'm sorry that they're not here, but yeah. So yeah, this whole thing, like I said, it did not intend to be a series. I was trying to slow down making art and and focus on something else, and then this happened. And again, to the magic of, we were talking the other night, of sharing the work on Instagram, and somebody who I respect greatly, Brad Zeller, saw some of the early stuff I posted, and he's like, this is a series. And if Brad Zeller tells you that, you go, oh, okay, you know? Like, I'm just thinking it's boring deer jumping over a fence, but that's me. Well, of course, now I don't think so. But in the beginning, when I was just playing around and just trying to like throw something on Instagram so I don't disappear on social media, that's kind of how I felt about it. Anyway, anybody else have a question?
I'm curious a little bit more about the spiritual self-portrait idea and how that
Yeah.
sort of relating to
Because I will say, on a certain level, without going into too much detail, I realize I've lived my life more as prey than a predator. And I suddenly identify as a woman in the landscape. And I identified more with this kind of motion through the night, like not attracting attention. Yeah, because again, until this, I didn't pay any attention to the deer. I just wanted to see grizzly bears. and then I'm like, because it is kind of cool to be in the woods and see grizzly bears or see them on your property. There is a certain, you feel more alive in the world when you know you're sharing the landscape with apex predators. So the deer were just completely uninteresting to me. And then when I really started focusing on this, I was like, oh, I'm kind of like them more than I am a predator,
So you can sort of identify with that once you sort of discovered it in the work.
Yes, exactly. Because I did, when you're kind of forced to write an artist statement, you're like, why am I doing this work? Because I didn't have a preconceived concept, right? And then go out and do it. My work never happens like that. And so as I'm being forced to come up with something clever to say, and then I noticed that Gerhard Richter thing on my bulletin board, and then what the reviewer wrote, and I was like, oh, that's it, right there. Honestly, it just kind of all came together, and it's probably the most honest artist statement I've ever written.
Yeah, which is something that also happens in journal entries. You don't know what you're writing about, and then later you discover that you were writing about something else.
Right, and this is my writing. I'm not a writer, so I don't keep a journal,
It's your diary.
because it's their diary. Yeah.
I have a quick question and a longer question. The quick question is, do you think you captured any repeat offenders? Are these deer maybe, been in one of your images more than once?
I have no idea. I'm sure, that's a nice rack. But I don't think, is that the same dude?
It looks like it.
It could be, I don't know, really where they were going, what was going on. Honestly, like I said, when I came across the idea of Siberian musk deer, I was literally like, I better read something about deer before I show this work in a museum. Really didn't really know much other than what they taste like on a sandwich. Sorry.
The longer question is, so I have a friend who's a hunter, and when we were in art school together, anytime he revealed that he was a hunter, he was very much divided the room.
Oh, yeah.
Very people were surprised or what because I don't know, hunters don't go to art school.
Isn't that sad?
And so, anyways, he always had insights that were I don't know, just he saw things that other people in class didn't see. And so,
Okay, and I just ask, where is this art school?
this is San Francisco Art Institute.
Okay.
And he's from Arizona. So my question for you is just I don't know your neighbors or anything like that, but I'm just curious if your photo community versus your immediate neighbors, if they have different insights or if there's any sort of overlap or differences in terms of comments or feedback that you get from your different communities. Maybe they're the same community.
No, they're different. And I'm going to say my photo community is virtual, which is why it's so nice to be doing this here with all of you right now, and why it was so nice the other night at the opening to actually talk about this and not have to type about it. Oh my God, I'm so done. And do I, it's kind of hard to explain. I think people do, in my real community, see the work and love that I'm celebrating what I'm celebrating. In terms of my most recent work, I guess. But I don't think that hunters have any problem with this. They do probably look at it a little bit differently. Okay, of course the deer show up when it's not hunting season, and as soon as it's hunting season, they're nowhere to be found. Well, that's evolution, right? And I will say that, with other projects I've done, if you take my card, you go on my website, I have a series called The Last Man. I would say the art world really has issues with that. And I've been, kind of horrified and shocked that the the way some of that work has been not. I mean, I've literally been to portfolio reviews where people will literally walk the edge of the room to avoid looking at that work, which that photo of the deer hanging off the skid steer, like that's features in there. And actually that night I took that one, and then my partner's hand soaked in blood after skinning, dressing it. And I had somebody come to me at that same portfolio review and look at the work and say, I can't even believe you're showing this work here. And it was shocking to me. Why is this not interesting? I mean, it clearly was, because I've won a Lens Culture Award, I've won Critical Mass Top 50. But yeah, I think there's some people that are like, I just think it's weird. It's like, if you don't eat meat, you don't wear leather, then okay, yes, I get it. Small family ranchers, but you also not understanding the entire story on that particular landscape. If you don't have grazers on your land, the forest will grow right to your back door, and the mountain lions and the grizzly bears and the wolves will literally be at your door. And this is not property you can just mow. So if you don't have grazers, you're putting your life in danger. So that's what the cattle are for, and so, and the horse and the sheep, and then why wouldn't you eat them? Cows don't exist if we don't eat them. They don't occur naturally. I think there's just definitely an urban bend to the art world.
Absolutely.
And I grew up in New Jersey. I lived in every borough but the Bronx in New York, went to NYU. I'm glad to be out of there and living rurally, but it just surprises me, people's lack of interest in each other. And that's what I was saying to Constance. Like, okay, maybe your work isn't as good if you're an outsider and you're photographing, other people or something else, but why shouldn't you be interested in it? Like, what would happen? We'd all be, to show no interest? Wouldn't then you be insulted? Well, you're not interested in what I'm doing? And I will say, there's one portfolio review where these young people just literally, as if there was some offensive odor coming off of me, didn't want to look at this work at all. And I know you know what I'm talking about. What?
You creeped them out.
But also, I ended up becoming so aware that when I sat down for reviews with people who were decades younger than me, that I felt like I had to jokingly introduce my series and say, oh, this is a series about a gun-loving, meat-eating white man on stolen native land. Just to kind of ease into the, political incorrectness of my life, but it's my life, and that was, kind of surprising. Anyways, that a long answer to your question.
Well, I just I'm glad that you are open to all those conversations, and I'm sorry that people are avoiding some of your great work, because that series is amazing. And
thank you.
But and that's what I love. I love that I have this friend in my life, because we look at landscape. My introduction to landscape is very different than his introduction to landscape, and I'm glad that I'm able to see some things through his eyes, and the same way that my introduction to predator and prey is very different from his, and so I'm glad that he was able to allow me to see new things and work that I maybe was avoiding, not realizing I was avoiding.
Right, I'll just tell you, one night we're sitting outside, and the last man, I'll just leave it at that, says to me, he points out at the land, and he's like, why did we go to Costco? Because there was the cows, there was sheep, there were geese, there were ducks, there were deer, all the way in a line down to the lake, and that's how he sees the landscape. How can we, and which is also why it's called The Last Man, because that lifestyle, you can, the society collapses and he knows how to feed himself. No, anyway, anybody else?
It's more of an observation. I guess I'm one of those dark art school people, but I see a lot of these images as this incredible lace between death and life. It's like a Bardo period.
It's a what period?
Yeah, like where you're not,
You're going to have to educate me on that comment.
you want to just, you can, if you don't like
He
this.
means the bardo of death. The bardo is all existence of life, but he's referring to the bardo after life.
After you die.
Buddhist
It's like a
believe
ghost
that there's a
realm
period
between
of
here
the
and
bardo.
And the in-between.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like the in-between space between being alive and going to the other place. Like, a lot of these make me feel like I don't know where I am and that I don't mind not knowing.
Oh, I love that.
Especially the one over there, the second from the right. That's incredible. And then also like those two, the three in the corner over there for sure. Like there's just this feeling of where am I? Am I alive? Am I not alive? And it's not about the deer, it's about the viewer.
Wow.
So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like, the animal in midair. It's just this incredible, you don't really know what side of life you're on. And I think this isn't in any way negative. I'm just saying.
Oh, God, no, I don't take it that way at all.
I'm
It's,
getting a lot of that from a lot of the photos that I'm seeing. And they're much more easy to see when they're really on the wall in the room with you. It's much different than seeing them like in a publication or whatever.
Tiny screen.
So, yeah, like even this one, you know, it's great to be in this middle place where I'm not anywhere. I love that.
wow, thank you. That's really interesting insight for me.
Yeah, don't people find that there's a spiritual element to seeing animals in the wild? When you see a deer, it's kind of a little bit of a out-of-body experience. You know, it just seems like time stops for a moment. And you know, I don't hunt, but hunters love animals.
Yeah.
They don't hate animals. And it's interesting that you keep referring to all sentient beings being either predator or prey. That's worth reflecting on. It's the nature of things.
That's,
But I was in Asia and saw a musk deer.
wait, you were in Asia? Is that what you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
said? Oh, so you've seen them.
Yeah, they're rare there, but I've seen them. The males have tusks. And they're little. They're like
Yeah.
chickens.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've met somebody who's seen a vampire deer.
They live in the deep forest. They're rare. It's rare to see them. But yeah.
But did you know that like some of the whitetail here have those residual tusks still? Yeah, when he told me this, I was just like, wait, what? And I went down the rabbit hole.
Well, and you saw it.
Yeah.
Hunters are obsessed with atypical, trophies. That's their thing, like antlers that are weird. That's what they like.
Yeah.
There's an incredible, like, 3-page story by Andy Dillard called Living Like Weasels that talks about exactly what Leonard's talking about, where you come into connection with an animal and it just transports you completely. It's I mean, if you just look up Living Like Weasels
Living
on
Like
the web, you
Weasels.
can just read it on
Okay.
the page.
I think it's good for your health.
It's good, yes. I mean, I'm not telling any of you to please don't move to Montana, but
Deer are
what
extremely common.
but what it does do for you, it really, like somebody said the other night, they were just like, oh, it's such a relief not to see photos of humans and talk about identity, and not knocking anybody's work who does. But I was like, when I moved to Montana 15 years ago, I did, like every art show I went to, it was all like moose and bear, which I admit now is a little boring to me. But at the time, I was like, oh my God, it's not artists reflecting on themselves, which is, coming from New York, like what art was. But then I'm like, oh, but if you live in a space where you can't see the earth and everything is just steel and concrete and glass, what else do you know about but yourself? And so when I got to Montana, what I realized is like you wake up every day like humbled by the earth, and you don't think about yourself to that same extent. And so then also being in the landscape with, apex predators makes the landscape even more exciting. Like it's almost like to go hiking in the woods where there's no grizzly bears. It's not the same thing. But of course, I do carry bear spray, which is like a very empowering tool. If I was hiking here in a city park and I couldn't carry bear spray, I'd probably be more scared. Sorry. Landry.
When I was in Montana, because I've spent so much time near where you live, and we were out in the woods shooting, and they said, look for bear. And all of a sudden I went, bear, bear, and everyone froze because we were shooting. And all of a sudden this black cow.
Oh, Jesus, Landry. Oh my God.
We were like,
Did they laugh at you?
yes.
Okay.
You told me to look for bears. And black cow is just going through the forest. Yeah.
Well, I will say, like, when I ended up needing eyeglasses about 10 years ago, like, the idea of, like, my vision isn't that bad, but when you are in the woods, you're like, I need to know if that's a tree stump up ahead on the trail or that's a bear way before I get to it. So, anybody else? Well, thank you so much.